Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al, week 14 on DraftKings, and there's a game on Thursday night, and they're kind of making me talk about it on DraftKings Showdown. I kind of don't want to. This game sucks. There's no two ways to slice it. The Patriots are playing the Steelers. Steelers are favored by 6. This is the lowest total in an NFL football game since 2008. 15 years since we've had a game this bad, and that game I think was being played in a hurricane. It's awful. I don't know if I'm going to play it. Full transparency, no idea if I'm playing this one because both quarterbacks are the backups. We have injuries all over the place, and the game is trash. By all means, thank you for being here and drop a like on the video. I'm fine if you don't play this slate. However, if you want to sweat it with our community, make sure you jump in the Discord, smizzle.tv/Discord. You can become a service subscriber there for $5 a month to get access to all the VIP rooms and the Friday cheat sheet for the main slate, which will undoubtedly be better than this stupid game on Thursday Night Football. So drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell, and let's go.
He's a legend.
Smizz Gang Listener League is posted for week 14. It's up, but not in the DraftKings lobby. We got $10 to enter, 3 max, absolutely no rake. The best tournament that exists on DraftKings.com. So make sure that you get into that. The only way to join it is by going to smizzle.tv/links and jumping in the link tree. While you're there, click on everything else that's there. You can find that entry to the Smizz Gang Listener League there because they're never going to post a no rake game in the lobby. I'll shout out all of the top 10 finishers on the weekly recap video on the Al Smizzle Fantasy Football channel every single Monday. Let's look at this stupid game. First of all, let's start with the injuries. Ramondre Stevenson, he's a good football player. He's fun for fantasy. He was getting an awful lot of volume. He's out. That sucks. Mitch Trubisky's going to be the starter because Kenny Pickett, he's out. That sucks. Not like Kenny Pickett was, amazing this year for fantasy, but like if he was doing as bad as he was doing, but playing ahead of Mitch Trubisky, what does that tell you about Mitch Trubisky? Now, also on the other side, Mac Jones is not starting because he sucked, but he had been benched like 5 weeks for Bailey Zappi, so it's Zappi time now. It's not like he's been much better either. At least he completed 13 passes last week. So that's your starting quarterbacks. I have listed, those are all your injuries and what's happened from there. So like, under captain, I have like a little show sheet that I go to every single game, like to keep me on track and remind me where I want to go with these things. So like, let's focus on the captains. On the captain, I wrote no good options. I've never written that before. There's no good options. They all suck. What do we look? George Pickens, slim. Everybody is just like essentially a maybe they could get there. The issue is we could very realistically see less than 100 total offensive plays in this game. If you're not really somebody who pays attention to like pace of play or, those things do lead to opportunities. If you get teams that play 65 to 75 plays on offense, 130 to 150 total offensive plays, you get an awful lot more opportunities to score, especially on DraftKings. We could see 47 and 49 offensive plays from both of these teams as neither of them wants to throw the football. They do want to run the hell out of it because they kind of have to with their quarterbacks. You have the Patriots who have allowed less than 10 points for 3 straight games and lost every one of them. That's impressive in its own right. So like, here's the guys who could be the captains. George Pickens has downfield ability. Mitch Trubisky is at least a solid backup quarterback at this point in his career. New England's defense has been tough recently, as I kind of mentioned before. Where would they be on this sheet? Right there. So like looking at the amount of yards that they've given up. 212, 29, 162, 58, 194, 70. And then back here, they were getting throttled. And since then, they've really slowed things down and grinded teams to a halt. And also in those 2 games, or 2 of those last 3, they got 0 sacks against Indy, 0 sacks against the Chargers. So the way that people are going to want to lean in this one, and I don't think that it's wrong, is, hey, we could play defense and captain. Sure, why not? You could play defense and captain. Just realize that defensive scoring is typically, you start out with 10 points for a shutout. That's true. And so like there may not be a lot of scoring in this game. So you're like, well, we'll maintain those points. But as I just showed you, defensive scoring comes from two things more primarily than points against. Amount of sacks that you're going to get. And the Patriots can get pressure, but they got 6 sacks in one game in the last 3 and 0 in the other 2. So you need teams to drop back to pass. And I'm not sure that either of these teams is going to drop back to pass. The Steelers defense, same sort of thing, right? They can get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. But like, what if they don't drop back to pass a whole lot? And what if the dropbacks that they have are quick hitters that they get the ball out fast? You're not going to have a lot of opportunities to express it. Now, yes, both quarterbacks can be mistake prone. You're always going to have the possibility for a defensive touchdown, but that's true every single game. Not sure that that's heightened in this sort of a game. This just looks like a slow bully ball game, and I do think that both defenses are going to be in a lot of lineups and definitely overplayed at captain, more so than even a normal island game showdown. So players like Deontay Johnson, were he to get 6-7 catches in a game, would be an optimal captain. If you're going to play him at captain, then you're probably putting Mitch Trubisky with him, but also all bets are off the table in this game. This is just the weirdest Thursday night football game that I think I've ever had to talk about. The only thing that came close, if you're a longtime viewer of the channel, is a few years ago, there's a game I did not want to talk about, so I just did this whole video silent. I feel like not talking for this whole video. Not just because I've been dealing with this cold, but also this game just sucks. The guy who is thrust into a much higher volume role is Ezekiel Elliott in the absence of Ramondre Stevenson. I do like the running backs at captain way more than any of the pass catchers, way more than either quarterback in this game. Zappy maybe a little bit more than Trubisky because of the upside he can bring with his legs if he runs in for a touchdown. Touchdowns are going to be scarce in this one with a total of 30 points. Steelers favored by 6, which means that Vegas is expecting 13 points out of the Patriots, which based on their last 3 games performances seems high. That seems like a lofty total to expect 13 points on. So they're expecting 1 touchdown from the Patriots in this game. If it's going to go to somebody, it's most likely going to go to somebody like Ezekiel Elliott, who saw 5 targets. He could be the captain, optimal captain on volume alone without scoring a touchdown in this game. Extremely solid at this point based on volume. You can make the argument that Zeke is cooked. You can make the argument he doesn't have the explosiveness that he used to have, but he is not injured going to this game, and Ramondre Stevenson is going to miss with that high ankle sprain. I think that he is probably our best bet at captain that's not a defense. The pass catchers can get there easier. And on the other side, Najee Harris. We had this long discussion last week on the Anti-Tinker Cast on Twitch that more than double the amount of ownership was going to go to Jaylen Warren over Najee Harris because they were essentially the same price, like 200 apart. But Jaylen Warren's the brand new shiny toy, and everybody is so excited to play him because he had a couple of really big games on low volume, and that's the sort of thing that's not sustainable in terms of repeatability, right? Unless you're Devon Achane or Tyreek Hill, historically Tyreek Hill, where your skill set is long touchdowns. Scoring long rushing touchdowns is not something that you can bank on one week versus the next one. You even have guys like Nick Chubb, Jonathan Taylor. It's kind of their thing that they break long touchdown runs. Derrick Henry, but like not really predictable on a week in, week out basis, but you know that they carry that ceiling with them. While Jaylen Warren has done a fantastic job of creating yards after first contact, elusiveness, his elusiveness rating is really high. His broken tackle rating is very high. In terms of league, and yards after first contact, very high. He's not getting enough volume, but in this game, we could see a situation where he gets his 15 opportunities, which is where he sits, 10 to 15 opportunities every single week. And anybody who scores a touchdown in this game is going to be a viable captain. But that conversation was Najee Harris. The narrative is that he's toast. The narrative is that he's washed. He does not have the explosiveness. Just look at him. He looks slow, yada, yada, yada. The Steelers play callers disagree with you. And none of that matters. I made this argument for years when the Cowboys had Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard, those years, the last 3 years, was a better back than Ezekiel Elliott in every single metric. And it didn't matter. Last year it mattered a little bit because they gave Tony Pollard more volume, because Ezekiel Elliott was the one who was dominating the touches, who was getting enough usage in the passing game, who was dominating and also leading the league in a couple of those years in terms of inside the 5 carries. Not that Najee Harris is doing those things this year, but in terms of this Pittsburgh Steelers offense, and very specifically for last week's game and this week's game, he projects to get 15 to 25 opportunities, where Jaylen Warren projects to get about 15. And every touch is going to matter, and every yard is going to matter, and every catch is going to matter. So the bigger upside play in a game that has a total of 30, I do have to couch this with that, is Najee Harris versus, on a volume basis, than Jaylen Warren, though I fully agree that Jaylen Warren has merit based on his big playability versus Najee Harris's big playability. There are really no other real captains that I want to focus on. I'm not high on Bailey Zappi at quarterback. I could see 2, 3, 4% of your allocation if you're playing 150. Same thing for Mitch Trubisky. He does have more ability with his legs than people want to give him. They're not going to throw the ball a whole lot with him. That's just not how they operate their offense. It's going to cycle around those 2 backs, and everything's going to flow through the defenses. And if you want to include the defenses, go for it. The final captain that I would consider would probably be Pat Freiermuth, because of the short nature of his ADOT and the ability to rack up targets and catches, and just a few yards is going to matter in this game. And if he happens to score 1, if not 2 touchdowns, he will be your optimal captain. And if you think that he's going to have that sort of a night where he has 25 DraftKings points, you are going to want to tie Mitch Trubisky to him. Let's head over to Underdog Fantasy and take a look at what they got over there. If you don't have an account over at Underdog, they are offering up to $100 deposit bonus on your first deposit to the site. Just use code ALSMIZZLE, ALSMIZZLE, all one word. Very simple. And they will put in, if you deposit $100, they put an extra $100 right in your account that you can use on these pick'ems. There's no running backs for Pittsburgh on the board. Otherwise, I'd have Pittsburgh running back. So let's go. Ezekiel Elliott over 58.5 rushing yards and Pat Freiermuth over 26.5 receiving yards in quite possibly the worst pick'em card that I have ever put together on Underdog Fantasy. We'll click submit. We'll confirm. Hopefully we can turn 100 into 300 this week. But I don't even know if I'm going to watch the game. I don't. I'm being completely honest with you. I don't want to watch. I want to make a dinner reservation and just go out with my family and just put scoring notifications on my phone while not having to watch the game. I have to watch the game, but I'd rather watch it in 30 minutes on the NFL snap to tackle, where I just see the plays and I don't have to sit there for 3.5 hours complaining on Twitter about this stupid game. Here's a couple of players that I think are a little bit cheaper and provide some upside for us. Tyquan Thornton has played more snaps the last few weeks with the injuries that they have all over the field. So at wide receiver for the Patriots. So he brings big playability if he can connect. He's the type of guy who is not going to carry a lot of ownership, should be under 25%. And if he was to connect on one of those long plays, it gives yourself an edge on the field, because nobody is excited to play Tyquan Thornton. He's priced up at a point where his game log and his points per game and his targets per game don't merit this $3,400 price tag. A couple of players I think are going to be extremely popular in flex. If he clears, Demario Douglas will at least get targeted a whole bunch, as we've seen. Same with Devontae Parker. He's going to get targeted a bunch, assuming that he's fine in this one. He has logged 9 targets and 5 targets the last 2 games with the injuries that they have. So lots of targets headed his way and lots of targets headed the way of Demario Davis. 2 other players that I think we can consider as low dollar, I don't even know if you need the low dollar plays on this slate because the pricing is fine, but at 200, Connor Hayward, 2 targets in week 13, 2 in week 12. We've seen him get multiple targets before in the wake when Freiermuth was out. Every point matters. 3.1 points for $200 is way more than enough. And anybody with his size and player profile, they get jumboed near the goal line. If he was to score a touchdown at 200, it would be an absolute smash on a slate like this one. And one super duper long shot for New England is JaMycal Hasty, possibly forced into a higher volume role, also at 200. If he was to get 4, 5, or 6 touches in this game, that would be more than enough at 200 if he was to break one for like a 10-yard gain. That's basically it in terms of that entire slate. I apologize for all of it. Let's go over to Fantasy Labs. I apologize that this is even a game. At Fantasy Labs, if you do not have an account, you can get a discounted membership at smizzle.tv/labs with an uppercase L. The best bargain is the 6-month package where you get NFL, college football, NBA, NHL, golf, NASCAR, MMA projections, and a lineup builder for all of them. These are my typical starting points. You can freeze frame it if you wanted to take a closer look at what they are for most slates. I will edit these as we go along. As I prepare for a slate, typically I do not allow kicker and defense to be my captain. If you want to open it up to that for this slate, you can go right ahead. This is the dumbest slate ever. If you want to allow more than one defense and kicker in the lineup, go ahead, allow as many as 3. You are flexible. You can build lineups however you want to build them. And just realize that when you go to Fantasy Labs, it's not going to be as simple as clicking the generate button and just printing money. Even in a game like this, you're going to have to work on your allocations. You're going to have to work on your combinations and your correlation to make sure that you have what you want out of the 150 lineups that you build, whether it's for the big tournament or for the mini max game. Find out if you're the next great mass multi-entry player. Make sure that you jump in our Discord at smizzle.tv/discord so you can surround yourself with a bunch of like-minded people to talk about daily fantasy with. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.